So let's look at the evolution of work. I mean, in 1900, going back 120 years ago, we were in the midst of the Industrial Revolution. Chances are, if you had a job, you were in a coal mine, you were on an assembly line, standing by a conveyor belt, you were on a farm, your work was very algorithmic. You could essentially draw a straight line between hours worked and output, presence and productivity. But something happened over the course of the 20th century. The nature of work shifted. Now, of course, the 8-hour workday was introduced in the 1930s. Now, that was after almost a century of lobbying, which goes back to Robert Owen, a textile manufacturer in Great Britain, who in the 1850s, on the foundation of a slogan of 8 hours work, 8 hours rest, 8 hours play, started lobbying for better work conditions. But in the time since the 8-hour workday was introduced in 1937, the nature of work has shifted significantly. You know, it's no longer algorithmic. It tends to be more about cognition, at least for most of us. At least for most of us watching this video, taking this course. It's about our minds, not our muscles. In fact, work changed across 4 key dimensions: autonomy and control, task scope, cognitive complexity, and interactive dimensions. So this essentially means that the complexity of our tasks is much more difficult, it requires thinking, and it requires oftentimes collaborating with other people, rather than just doing a simple, monotonous, repetitive task while standing by an assembly line and doing that task thousands upon thousands of times, day after day after day, without really having to think about it. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to the algorithmic work of the Industrial Revolution, like I said, straight line between presence and productivity, hours and output. But when it comes to cognitive work, knowledge work, thinking work, that same straight line doesn't actually exist. Now, when it comes to that kind of work, it's more important that we don't necessarily manage time, but we manage our attention. When it comes to cognitive work, it turns out that we can only really do about 4 hours of deep work per day. And we'll get into what deep work is, what the psychology of flow is. But after that, there is a point of diminishing returns that is reached. Most people are lucky to get just 1 hour of deep work in their day because we are distracted. We are distracted by our devices, we are distracted by our own minds, and we are spending very little time in flow, where human beings are at their absolute best. So, what's this flow thing all about?